Welcome to the Punting is Winning podcast. Just two fans talking all things Hawkeyes. Here are your hosts, JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to Punting is Winning, the All-Iowa podcast. We're your hosts. I'm your co-host Keith, and I'm along with my co-host JD. It is
Hi, everyone.
another weekend prior to football season starting. We're getting closer. A couple more weeks, and we'll be there 3 weeks, actually. Looking forward to it.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming. It's a hard season to get through when there's no football. And
yeah, I don't want to wish my summer away, but by the time,
No.
same token, I'm ready for football to start.
Yeah, that's always the tough thing is you wish your summer away to get to football, but you lose out on that. But hey, fall's a
That's
better
a
time of the
trade-off.
year anyway. It's a little cooler and a little better sporting time.
Been
so,
nice lately, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it feels more like fall right now.
Yeah. That's why it gets me more in the mood for football, is that cooler weather, the cooler nights, sitting out. I was sitting out on the deck night before last. I had to put sweats and a sweatshirt on. That's not normal weather for Iowa.
Yeah, we had to have the fire pit on last night. That's for sure. And I guess the cooler temperatures have broken a record at the state fair with attendance. So,
Well,
which doesn't surprise me. It's a lot nicer to go when it's 75 degrees than it is when it's 95 degrees.
yeah, I think my state fair going days might be pretty much over.
Yeah, it's not a lot different each year. So,
No.
See the butter cow or whatever.
I have to have something that takes me to the state fair that I'm interested in, and I just haven't
Free
had
show.
that. I haven't had that for a while. I would have liked to
Yeah.
seen Steel Woods the other night on the free stage, but I'm not gonna go out of my way. So
Yeah, I got a buddy that plays on the Bill Riley stage every year, who I went to high school with, part of the Lou and Brad band. So, shout out
Yeah.
to those guys. Haven't seen them yet, but really would like to.
I do want to hijack this for just a second.
Okay.
I got a good friend who had a family member die just this last week or pass away. And I want to just say, I'm sorry that this happened, and my condolences to you. And I hope everything turns out good for you. And I feel bad, and I wish I could help you out in some sort of way. And I know you're hurting, but there's good times ahead, and keep your head up. Things will get better. And I know you know who you are when I'm talking to you, because you are an avid listener of the show. So just come on over if you need somebody to talk to. Okay.
So let's cover last week's question of the week. The question was, Iowa has a string of consecutive seasons where they've had an interception return for a touchdown. What I wanted to know was when the last season was that they didn't have an interception return for a touchdown. And it must have been extremely difficult, and it was very hard to Google as well, so people didn't respond on this one, but
I don't think they were willing to put the time in for it.
yeah. So, but the correct answer is 2007 was the last year that Iowa did not have an interception return for a touchdown. So, going into this year, 17 years.
Yeah, you got to go back a ways. That's a long time. That's a pretty good streak. I'm not sure how many Division I schools can say they go back that far. There might be, like, Alabama could probably go back further, or Ohio State could probably go back further, but there's not a lot of them that can say 17 straight years.
Yeah. And I think when I did my research, there were 3 years in the Kirk Ferentz era that he hasn't had an interception return for a touchdown on the defensive side.
2007 and before.
Yeah, I think it was 2007, maybe 2004, which, believe it or not, with a good season we had, didn't have one.
Good season.
And then I think 1999 was the other one.
Yeah.
So, interesting factoid to come up with. And I just remember listening to a game last year and talking about there being a long streak, and I couldn't remember how long it was, so I had to go back and manually look that up and track it back through, and quite a stretch. So here's to making it another year in the books this year. Hopefully get it done the first game and get it over with.
That would be nice. That would be
I
nice.
would agree. So let's dive right in. This last week was Hawkeye Media Day on Friday, and the open scrimmage was on Saturday. And we've heard some rumblings coming out of Kinnick Stadium or out of the Hawkeye football complex over the last week or so since practice started. So, what have you heard? What were your impressions of the Hawkeye Media Day? What were your thoughts?
Well, I really, there's a couple different things that kind of struck me. I really liked how Kirk has developed a sense of humor over the last 25 years. When he had mentioned that Phil Parker had been run into and had to have shoulder surgery, and that he didn't know if he was on the same planet, I thought that was kind of funny.
I kind of chuckled about that too.
Yeah. And then he said something else that was a reference to a movie, I think, and I can't remember exactly what it was. And I had to kind of laugh at that too. So, I mean, it seems like things are light, kind of jovial. There's a lot. He said we were probably as healthy as they've ever been. Get this far in. Everything that so far, other than Phil Parker, has just been soft tissue injuries that are not going to be taking anyone out. In fact,
LaShawn Williams was the only one that really kind of stuck out to me as far as main guys that I noticed were absent.
Well, I was thinking Cohen Entringer, that he was supposed to be out a while, has made a pretty miraculous recovery. He hasn't been. They didn't put him out yesterday, I don't believe, and
not been
I think
tackling, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think it's just a situation where he's just given them that extra time to get more healed.
Mm-hmm.
But was talking about how the modern medicine has gone above and beyond what it used to be, and that kids are coming back from injuries much quicker, and that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's good that he has. I think it's good that he has the luxury of being able to bring him along slower after an injury like that. He's got some depth there and some pieces that he can put in place that he doesn't necessarily need him to come back quick.
Right.
So that's a good situation to be in.
Other than that, I really didn't take a whole lot out of it. It was pretty much just we're young in places, but veteran as much as we've ever been, especially on the defense. I think he's referring to, when he says young, he's talking about some of the backup, like wide receivers and that kind of thing, because there's some young ones there that not a lot of experience.
Right.
I think that's what he meant by that. But for the most part, it was just pretty much coach speak. We're just muddling through day by day. We're learning a new offense. The defense is going to be solid. The offensive line is going to be better than it's been. It's veteran as it's been for a long time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know. What did you take out? Is there anything different that you took out of it than I did?
I think what I grabbed up from it the most was he seems more relaxed this year. And typically when he's more relaxed in his opening press conferences, that's the better seasons we have. He's got a little bit more of that firm grasp on where this team could be. I think there's a lot of upside to the team. Maybe we didn't see it at Kids Day yesterday, but you also got to remember this is a extremely good defense that they're going against. And yeah, there might have been a few guys. There might have been a few guys sitting from the defensive side and from the offensive side as well. But it's going to be tough, especially when they've been facing you for, spring practice now, 8 practices in, plus all the spring workout or all the summer workouts. The defense knows the plays. The only thing that's going to confuse them is the motions and things like that. So it's not like they're going to be that far behind as like another team who is, like, say, an Illinois State, who won't have any clue what's going on. They've at least seen the plays, so they can kind of be in the right spot. So I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. Now, were some of the numbers a little concerning? Yeah, but it was also the first real live bullets flying at certain guys since injuries. And, not singling Cade McNamara out specifically, but it was the first time he's had live bullets thrown at him. so to speak, since his injury. And he's going to be cautious and he's going to be tentative, I think, until he figures out that, hey, I can trust this. And then I think you'll see him relax and you'll see him play the game that he knows how to play.
I think there's a couple things that we have to think about here. One, you are going against Iowa's number one defense, which is one of the top defenses in all of the nation. No question about it. Even though they had, I think Xavier Wampa was out, there was a couple of other guys. I think what you got to understand here is I don't think Kirk wants to show anything to anybody.
No.
So I think they kept this as absolutely as bland and as basic as you can get to show to people. And I don't think Kirk really gives two craps whether or not you like the offense or don't like the offense. It's his deal to run. And I think in 3 weeks, you're going to see a completely different offense than what you saw yesterday. And 3
more weeks.
I just don't think they just didn't want to show anything. They didn't want to do anything that was going to tip off anyone to, because of all this, cheating and what Michigan did basically was sending people in disguise down to do their scouting. And I'm sure that happens everywhere and it's not that big a deal. I'm sure Iowa probably send people to scout too, but the way they did it kind of was a little bit suspect, but I don't think there's a lot you'd be able to take away, honestly, from this game yesterday.
No.
I just think there were too many variables that were against the offense. I think they just wanted to keep it basic and they wanted to not show anything. That's mainly the big thing. 2, you've got Cade McNamara, who hasn't really been healthy for 2 years or more. Hasn't played a game where he's felt like his 2 legs were decent since early Michigan. Last season he was with Michigan early in the year before he got hurt. I mean, that's a long time. And to go right out there and start and to learn a new offense, this is rep number 1 a lot of times for some of these guys in some of these plays live. I mean, they can run them against, imaginary players and just run it. But when you're going against defense and they just kept things so vanilla that, I mean, is it concerning that he went 8 for 24 for 20 yards? Yeah, it's a little concerning. But by the same token, I think we're going to see a completely different quarterback in 3 weeks than we saw yesterday.
There's 3 weeks for him to get better. And, I'd be more concerned if we were talking about a guy who hadn't taken any snaps in his career.
Right.
Even a guy like Brendan Sullivan, I'm not as concerned with him, even though he's only had 8 practices with the team.
Same thing.
3 weeks, a lot can happen in 3 weeks. Like they say, when you get into the season, you make the biggest leaps between first week and second week.
Right.
Because now you've got another defense that you're playing against and things on tape that you can look at. And so I'm not, now they've got things on tape to look at, live defensive reps. So now they can know, okay, I can make this tweak, or I need to make this read, or I need to slide in this position, or, step to the right, step to the left, whatever. It's getting that muscle memory, like you said, shaking the rust off of him. Because like you said, he hasn't been healthy in 2 years, a little over 2 years, and he hasn't played in a live game situation in 10 months.
Yeah.
11 months.
And then
almost.
He wasn't healthy for it.
Yeah, and he wasn't healthy for that either. So I'm not that concerned with it. I do like the fact that there's a competition there. Sullivan is pushing him.
And I think it needs to be a competition. 100%. It needs to be a competition. I know how Kirk works. I mean, we've been around for 25 years. We know how he works. He's going to say Cade's number 1. It doesn't matter what happens in practice. Cade's number 1, and he will be the number 1 starter, providing he doesn't get hurt on day 1. He will start the game. I don't care. Just because of how Kirk works, Cade could go out there literally and stink it up every day from now until opening day. And Sullivan could be throwing 17 touchdowns. Cade's still going to start. That's the unfortunate thing. That's just how Kirk has always done it. He will always go with the person who's been there the longest, who's been in the system the longest.
Most trust.
Has the most trust in. Is it right or wrong? Probably debatable if it is right or wrong. I mean, if
he's been pretty successful.
If Sullivan's throwing the ball better and is running the offense and has a better command of the offense, I throw him in there. I don't care about politics. I don't care about who's got the biggest NIL deal. I put who I think is going to be the best leader of this team from a quarterback standpoint. Period. End of story. Kirk doesn't work that way. It doesn't seem that he works that way. And he may see the light, whatever that may be. If Cade goes out and if it's 50-50, they're both good, they're both the same, yeah, start Cade. And if Cade struggles, you can drop in Brendan Sullivan and see how he does. I think you've got that opportunity this year where you didn't have that last year. You knew what you had in your backup, and it wasn't good. We saw what we had in our backup, and it wasn't good. This year, I think we've got a decent backup who has seen reps, who has been successful, even if it's for a team that's not as good as Iowa's going to be, defensively anyway. I don't know.
It's a team that finished 8-5 and won a bowl game, though.
Yeah, no, they were, but they weren't as good as Iowa was. They didn't win the West like Iowa did. No. And I think Iowa's a better team this year than Northwestern was last year and will be this year.
I would agree.
I think Brendan Sullivan definitely upgraded, in my opinion. Now, you Northwestern lovers who actually I don't know if anybody watches the show, Northwestern lover, may come at me and say that I'm wrong. We'll see. Iowa plays Northwestern. We'll see. So we'll settle that one on the field.
Yep. So other than him being upbeat, and that was, to me, that's always a positive going into these, listening to that. It sounds like there's some guys, like you said, there's some soft tissue injuries. Some of those can be lingering. I would be more concerned if it was guys that were younger in the program, but guys like LaShawn Williams. I'm not concerned with. He's 5 years in now, so he knows what he's doing. And sounds like Caleb Johnson had a pretty good day yesterday. It sounds like all the running backs had a pretty decent day. I don't think Kamari Moulton played. I think he was out as well.
I don't think it was much.
And then you had some offensive linemen that were a little dinged up too. I know Mason Richmond was in and out. So you take it with a grain of salt, what you see yesterday. I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. I've seen 25 years now. I've seen probably 17 of those 25 years where our spring practice and our first summer open practice just absolutely looks like we could be lucky if we win a game against a high school team and they go out and win a Big Ten championship, or they'll finish in the Big Ten title game. So, I almost would rather them be bad in the spring and the summer so they have things to work on.
Yeah.
They won't rest on their laurels, so to speak. But that's kind of what I took from media day.
Right. So what are some of the names you were hearing coming out of camp that were impressing people?
People that I've heard were guys like John Nestor, TJ Hall, and Jacob Gill, Caden Wheatchin, and Carson Sherrar were the guys that I've heard the most about.
Yeah, I think Jeremiah Pittman was one of them that I heard also on the defensive line backup. Jeff Bowie.
Brian Allen is another one I've heard names too.
Brian Allen too. Yep. They're going to be solid backups if they're not playing for starting positions at some points. I did hear Brevin Dahl was going to be moving from running back to wide receiver. It's probably it might be a good thing because he's got good speed, so he can do a lot of end arounds. He can do that like wide receiver screens, and just get him out in the open field and let him run. He's super quick, and I know that Tim Lester will have him in positions where he's going to be successful. He will put him in positions to be successful. Other than that, I listened to Tim. There was an interview with Tim Lester. I don't know if you saw that or not. And he talked about scripting plays, and he does do that to some degree. He also talked about the extensive amount of motion that Iowa's going to run, and how that's going to affect the defense and some of the eyes of the defense, keeping them confused, running different schemes off of same play, just running it differently. We talked about that on an earlier podcast about that kind of thing. He also is noteworthy to mention that he talked about blocking scheme up front, and he noted that they're going to run gap about 60 to 70% of the time, and then, or I'm sorry, zone 60 to 70%, and then gap the other percentage. And he said it may be depending on who we're up against and what defense we're seeing. It may be more 60-40, it might be 50-50, it might be 70-30 depending. So I think he's wanting to he thought maybe he could do more stuff out of a zone blocking scheme with defense, confusing the defense. I just know we talked about gap and zone before, and it seemed like Iowa was better when they ran gap plays versus zone in the past. We'll see if that changes. Sometimes you get it to be an offensive lineman, and you just feel more comfortable a certain way, or you feel like that's what you run the majority of your life. Like in high school, you run gap mostly. So then when you get to zone's foreign to you, and you're still learning how to do it, even though you're in there. And I think by the time these guys, especially this year, as much veteran as they are, they should have it down pretty good. So I am expecting good things out of the offensive line. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
The thing about the zone blocking is you've got to be in sync across the board. Everybody has to be in step. And it's better for a smaller offensive line. And I think when you get those guys the size that, the 310s, 315s, 320 guys, that's more of a gap blocking team because that's maybe not quite as quick on those steps. And it's also probably, to me, it probably feels like it's an easier thing to run against like a 3-4 set as well. A gap scheme is just because you've got quicker linebackers on a 3-4 than you do on the 4-3. And if you can't hit that spot just at the right time, that's the play's blown up. I think that's where a little bit more of that blocking scheme kind of comes in. But I'm not the one getting paid to make those decisions. I'm not the one getting paid the millions of dollars. So there's just simple observations from an armchair quarterback, so to speak, that sees those things. But we'll see how it plays out.
I think,
like I said, I'm looking forward.
Tell a lot.
Yeah, and it's not against a incredibly tough opponent, but it's not a slouch either. I mean,
but
Illinois State is a good Division I,
right?
Yeah,
they're going to have opportunities to work things out. Basically, that first game, I don't think it's going to be. And if it is closer game than what I think it is, I might be a little nervous, but I just think it was a good first opponent, an FCS opponent, and it's good to get, especially when you're trying to work out a new offense and everything's all new. The demeanor on the field, the interaction on the field during the game it's a different dynamic than practice. You can sit back and you can run practices all day, but when the coach is not down on the field, it's a different feel and it's a different dynamic. So they're going to have to work all that out, and I'm sure that they will, and that won't be a problem. But there's always going to be those little things that are just you're going to get a flag on a delay of game or something you shouldn't, because of now that the communication in the ear, you shouldn't get that. It should be vastly it should drop down. It shouldn't be that many. But there's just it's just the little intricacies you got to work out with a new offensive coordinator and just a new team. Not that these guys aren't. There's a lot of veterans. Don't get me wrong, but just everybody learning still how things are done.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear is that they go out and they go 3 and out in the first series, or they'll get one first down but have to punt, and the naysayers will be out and about rampantly, like hyenas on fresh meat. And it's probably going to be that way. You're not the fact that they scored on their first possession last year kind of was shocking to me.
It set an expectation that was hard to rebound from too.
Yeah. So, the last time we had a season where I think we scored first possession of every game was 2002.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. I would not put a whole lot of stock into it if they go 3 and out on the first one. That first series is going to be getting the jitters out, getting the new guys in, getting this new system in, and whatnot. If it happens, it happens. If now, like you said, if it ends up being a game where it's kind of like the South Dakota State game where it ends up 7-3, we don't score a touchdown, I'm going to be a little concerned at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm looking more probably 31-3, 34-10 type of game. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I kind of see that too. Yeah, I don't see Iowa scoring 55-60 on these guys. I just don't. I don't think with the offense, especially as new as it is, I don't see it. If it happens, I will be supremely shocked.
I figure
I'm with you. I'm figuring Iowa 30-35 at the most, and just rely on the defense. 35-3, 35-7. Just a pretty much workmanlike effort. Nothing fancy, nothing special. They got Iowa State coming up the week after. They don't want to give Iowa State too much to look at. I just get it done. Get all the kinks worked out of the first week. Get all the bugs figured out. And move on. And try to be as healthy as you possibly can.
Yeah, and learn. Yeah,
and learn.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. I did want to make sure that we mentioned Reese Dakin. I guess he had a pretty good day yesterday punting. So that's encouraging. I figured he would have a good year. I just kind of wanted to temper at least the expectations that he's not Tory Taylor.
Right.
And he's going to have ups and downs. He's going to have games where he's kicking 65 and 70-yard field or punts. But then there's other good games when he's going to shank one or two. And it might be in a issue or a sensitive issue where we don't have the time or we can't afford to do it.
At a bad time.
That's not the case in a bad time. Yeah. But everything I'm hearing was good. Field goal kicking was good.
Well,
everything seemed decent yesterday. I did see one block, maybe.
From a Drew Stevens aspect, field goal kicking was good. I'm very concerned if something happened to him. I don't think there's much behind him right now. Again,
Woody.
That's nothing against Trip Woody. He's a true freshman coming in, so
he's the heir apparent.
Yeah, that's the first time he's probably played in front of be the first time he played in front of 70,000 people, and that would be a tough situation. But another name that I did hear some good talk about, or a name to keep an eye out on, is KJ Parker, freshman wide receiver. Sounds like he is turning some heads as well. And Reese Vanderzee is another one. They'd really like that 6'5" size and his ability to go up and get the ball. A couple of guys to keep an eye out. Sounds like that from everything I was hearing, the wide receivers have really had a solid camp so far. And prior to yesterday, the quarterbacks had a fairly solid camp. So, again, take it for what it's worth, and people's expectations of what they consider solid and what others would consider solid might be two different things. If, to me, quarterbacks being solid would be 14 of 21 for 200 yards in a scrimmage or something. That's being solid in practice, in a scrimmage at practice. Other people might think 10 of 22 is solid with 150 yards and no interceptions. That's a solid one. Okay. It's a matter of opinion.
I think at this stage of practice, I think basic throws is all I really care about. If they're completing the basic throws, I'm fine with everything. If it's a tricky downfield, got to thread the needle type pass and he doesn't make it, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm worried about just making the basic throws, the 10 to 15 yard throws. That's all I care about at this point. You want to get fancy, we'll do that later when you've had a chance to have more reps. We'll get fancy then. Maybe third or fourth game of the season, we'll get into fancy, but let's just basically make the basic throws.
Yeah. That's all. Hayden that used to say make the makeables?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I agree. There's no reason why, the simple plays move the ball. And that's what you have to do. You're not offense built to go down and score in 4 plays every time. You're an offense that's built to drive down the field, take 8, 10, 12 plays to score, taking time off the clock, keeping your defense on the sidelines, keeping them rested, keeping the ball out of the other team's hands, because if they don't have the ball in their hands, they can't score unless you make a mistake on offense. So there's nothing wrong with that philosophy of
That
football
sounds like the
either.
Iowa football. That sounds exactly like Iowa football.
You got guys like Lincoln Riley who think the opposite. I want to score in 4 plays. I don't care as long as I can outscore my opponent at the end of the day. I don't care what the score is. Whereas baseball or football purists are going to say, well, defense is part of it too. So there's nothing wrong with those 8 to 12 play drives that take 6 to 7 minutes off the clock. You want to be able to do that at the end of a game when there's 5.5 minutes to go in a game and you just need to put a drive together to chew up clock, and you want to be able to do that. If you can't do it and you're scoring in 4 plays or you're making 4 plays and kicking, then your defense isn't getting time to rest. Your defense is not going to be as good as it should be, and you get these games that are 55 to 50.
If I'm Kirk Ferentz and I'm watching game number 1 from the sidelines, and I'm letting Tim Lester do his thing and Phil Parker do his thing, and I'm just managing things, I want to see 10-play drives. I want to see clock being eaten. That's, to me, more, because you can tell more from your team and how going forward from an 8 and 10 or 11-play drive than you can out of a 2-play drive where they hit a 55-yard bomb or 65-yard bomb on a cornerback that tripped and fell. What are you learning from that? Nothing. The kid tripped and fell and you hit the receiver. You got lucky. You think you can do that consistently? No. But you need to learn how to run 8 and 10 plays drives consistently. That's what you need.
And the thing about that is you are imposing your will on the other team when you do that.
Absolutely.
You're not just, those 3-4 play drives. Yeah, okay, they're demoralizing to a defense, but all they have to do is stop you a couple of times.
You're winning the line of scrimmage too at that point.
Yeah. If you're winning the line of scrimmage and you're imposing your will and you're eating clock, you're doing everything that you want to do. The only way you're going to lose that game is if you lose it yourself. If you screw up and lose it, and by doing something stupid.
Right.
So people can say I'm crazy, but I've never had an issue with the way Iowa plays football. Never. I don't care if it's not flashy, if it's not, sexy, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. They're winning games. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all I care about is I don't care if it's a 2-0 game. Couldn't care less what the score is.
As long as that little mark goes in the left-hand column.
Absolutely.
But by the same token, though, you have to, and I agree with you 100%. But the perception nationally might keep you out of a 50-50 draw between you and somebody else for that playoff spot.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. The perception is, and I don't know what I haven't heard what the selection procedure is going to be, or if it's some kind of a matrix that they have to stay within. If you win this or win that, or you have this many points or whatever. If it comes down to the human factor, where it's the humans have to pick
somebody's
between
eyeballs.
2 teams, it's going to be not Iowa because of the way Iowa wins their games. It's not. People don't like to watch that. We do, because that's what we've come to enjoy and been forced down our throats, I guess. That's how you want to say it. But, we've come to accept it.
I like to win.
I like to win,
and
too.
I don't care how I win. If it is 2-0 or if it's 73-0 or if it's...
I think if you win 10 games, I don't think it really is going to make any difference. No. You're in. No. But if you are 9-3 and you're right on that bubble and you've only won your games by 3 and 5 points and it's 17-13, that might persuade someone to pick the other team.
Especially when it's against somebody that they deem inferior talent and it's too close of a game. Yeah, I agree. We've had this conversation. We had it yesterday when we talked about it, that, if push came to shove and you've got to choose between a 10-3 Iowa team who maybe loses to 2 conference champions and a team that finishes 10-2 who loses 2 conference games, let's say,
and doesn't
they're probably going to pick game. Yeah, it doesn't play in a championship game. Probably not picking Iowa because of the 3 losses, because that preconceived notion of, well, they're just kind of boring football and that's more of the same. So I'm going to take this team because their losses were, they lost this game by 10 points, this game by 13, but boy, they sure put up a lot of points. You know, again, that's a bias. That's
but that's the national perception though
but that
of
is the
Iowa.
perception.
That is the perception, and you can say that sucks and that's not right, and it shouldn't be that way, but that's just how it is. I mean,
saying our perception is we win.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't care.
but
As long as that tally
they-
goes in the
they-
left column and not the right,
exactly.
don't care.
But they say that winning cures all issues, and it does.
Well,
You go 11-1, I guarantee you're in the playoff.
yeah,
I don't think there's anybody that would. I don't think there's anybody that would be left out with 11-1,
it'd be awful
unless
hard to
you're
leave somebody out
a
of
group
11
of
and 1
5, maybe.
who didn't play anybody in
Who
their
didn't
only
play
tough
anybody.
game they lost by
Right.
20 points. Yeah,
Right.
I agree. So, but yeah, that's my impressions of what I've heard coming out of camp so far, what I've seen from or what I heard on Iowa Media Day. Just putting my ear down and listening. That's what I've come up with. You have anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just looking forward to the season starting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we progress at quarterback, and if there's any chance at all that Kirk Ferentz would have to make a change because of lack of productivity, essentially.
Well, he's done it twice. He's done it twice that I can think of. Did it in 2014,
I think it's worked out both times. He did it
and he did it in 2008.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it worked out well for him the following year, especially.
Yeah, and that may be the thing too with Brendan Sullivan is you've got an extra year with him. So
yeah,
if you decide that Cade's not getting it done and Brendan actually is getting it done, well then you've got a double bonus because then you've got another
year
you've
of
got a starter coming back from the year before for next year.
Yep, I agree,
and that's always a good thing.
Well, yeah, anytime you have experience coming back and somebody who's run the offense, nothing
providing
wrong
they're
with
a
that.
winner,
Right?
and not
right.
and not the last guy we had.
Like it or not, he still won.
Deacon. Yeah, he did.
So
I think they won in spite of him.
Yeah, I think the defense won. I mean, there's one game that was left out on the table because of the offense's lack of production.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't think you take those other 3 games that they lost, probably still lose those games anyway, even if he's decent. Closer games. Maybe the Big Ten championship game might have been a different story if we had a semblance of an offense in that game, because I mean, outside of some silly turnovers down inside the 10-yard line, that was a 12-0 game.
Yeah, and I think if you were to ask Michigan who the toughest defense they played all year, I'm not sure they wouldn't just say Iowa.
Yeah, I would have to think so. I mean, who knows?
Right.
That's just maybe that's our bias too, but who knows? Anyway, so shall we wrap up on that and head to the question of the week for this week?
Yep, this is a good one. You guys are going to like this one.
So this week's question of the week: Iowa has had one player in the history of the university who has been a 3-time unanimous All-American. Name him. And you didn't name him until I gave you several hints.
Names and didn't get it. But
yeah,
when you gave me the initials, I did get it right after that.
Yeah, it was tough, and I had to go back and double check because there was one other guy that I thought might have been in that same realm, but and he was a 3-time All-American, but he was not a 3-time unanimous first-team All-American.
Was it one of the guys I mentioned?
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Okay.
So that is the question. Put it in the comments. As always, like and share this video. Comment on this video. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. Give us your thoughts. Tell us what you think. If you've heard anything different than what we've heard coming out of Kinnick Stadium and out of the Iowa football complex over the last week and a half. Check us out on our Facebook, Twitter. We got some videos out on TikTok. Share those videos with people. Just try to get the name out there. Shout out to our 16 subscribers that we have now. Woohoo!
Got 2 last week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anytime we can get a subscriber each week, that's a positive step in the right direction.
I'd like to see us push to 25 by I don't know, game one.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's pushing
that'd be
it
nice.
though.
But
The way
yeah, if
things
you,
have gone.
but yeah, we'd love to hear feedback too. So we'd like to know if we're actually doing anything that's worth it. Is
Yeah.
anything we're saying news to you? So just let us know.
Yeah, we
Anything
have
else
fun doing this, and we hope that you guys have fun listening. We try to make it kind of light and airy, but by the same token, we want to try to get some information out. If you want to have us do more like banter back and forth with just different things, not sports related, we can do that too. It's not that big a deal.
Believe me, we've
We'll
been
figure out
brothers for a
something.
long, long time. We can disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yep, just let us know. So with that, I'd say let's wrap it up on a familiar Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.